converted while in prison, executed last night, despite the fact that the family asked for clemency.
The victim's family.
The victim's family asked for clemency. There are significant doubts about his conviction. The jury only included one black member after the prosecutor later admitted striking people because of their race, effectively. And the prosecutor's office that originally prosecuted him wanted him to get clemency. Instead, he's dead.
Yeah. So we will break down all of the details and even talk about the larger trend, because I think just this month there's a host of executions that are scheduled to take place. That is
a whole bunch in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's the pace is pretty high in the next couple of weeks. So we'll talk about all of that. Let's start on another bleak topic, which is we're going to be beginning with Tel Aviv. Ryan, breaking news out of Tel Aviv, where Israel says that it intercepted a missile that was heading for Tel Aviv. Now, what we're hearing is that apparently that was the story from Hezbollah, is that it was intended for a Mossad headquarters. Is that right?
Yeah, the Mossad headquarters in the suburbs of Tel Aviv, which, if this were a newscast about an assault on Gaza or on Lebanon, the newscaster would immediately say that Israel is keeping its military and intelligence infrastructure in civilian areas to hide behind human shields. And when we see the reverse, we see how clear it is that that doesn't make it okay to bomb a suburb. For some reason, the American public is swayed by that argument when it comes to, say, Gaza or Lebanon or anywhere else. Say, oh, well, it was in a suburb. I guess that's a real shame that they had to level all those apartment buildings and that entire civilian area or that hospital. They found a couple weapons.
I was going to say, people conflate those two things. The idea of, as in this case, having Mossad headquarters in the suburbs, which is the same with the CIA, for example. A lot of those intelligence agencies are out in the suburbs here. But
they might bomb Costco here if they're aiming for the Pentagon.
And no casualties reported so far in this case, but people will conflate having in a densely populated area like Gaza, infrastructure that's near military infrastructure with people when they're literally hiding like bombs under children's beds. Those two things are not the same.
And another difference would be the actual firing of the missiles.
Right.
Some Hamas or PIJ will fire missiles from very nearby, like a school or a mosque or something else. But again, that's related less to, I think, morality and more to just the massive asymmetry. Like Israel has the U.S. sending, fighter jets and endless amounts of bombs and missiles, and has the capacity to just launch from the air. When they go about building their infrastructure, they build their military infrastructure right into Tel Aviv.
So again, no casualties reported so far in the situation. The death toll, according to the Associated Press, since Monday in Lebanon is 564 people. That's 50 children and 94 women, according to Lebanese authorities. So there's been also attacks from Hezbollah in northern Israel. A couple of people in a kibbutz.
Some of the VO here of the.
This is Beirut,
the carnage,
right?
Yeah. Well, this is southern Lebanon. Yeah.
Southern Lebanon. Okay, and there was reports of people getting hit by shrapnel in a kibbutz in northern Israel. What you're seeing on your screen right now, Ryan, this is southern Lebanon, utter destruction.
Yeah, and this is a man who was going back to try to get to his wife. Here's some other attacks that you're seeing across Lebanon. I think it's worth kind of setting up some of the context here for people who have been, focused, mostly on the Israel-Gaza war and also the attack on the West Bank. So, very, very brief history of Hezbollah. They emerged as a result of the 1982 invasion of Lebanon by Israel, and they formed into a guerrilla group to expel Israel, and actually finally succeeded in doing so in 2000, and kind of became heroes of resistance around the region as a result of it, and then began to embed themselves into the body politic of Lebanon, which is a very ailing and kind of psychotic body. It's just a complete Lebanon as a state is a complete mess. In 2006, they launched a little cross-border raid and grabbed a couple of Israeli soldiers. And Israel then launched a massive all-out bombing campaign and ground invasion into Lebanon. which turned out to be a failure, did not get the hostages back, and also withdrew, which again kind of raising the celebrity status in the region of Hezbollah. But then in the 2010s, there was the Syria civil war, and Hezbollah sided with Bashar al-Assad. Now you can imagine why they would do that, because they are allies with Iran. Iran is allies with Syria. And so if Hezbollah is a client of Iran and Iran's got business, Hezbollah is going to carry out that business. But that meant that they were fighting with a lot of kind of Sunni rebels in Syria and killing a lot of Muslims. And that very much tarnished their reputation and led to a break between Hamas and Hezbollah. Like they became adversaries. They were on the other side of this. Hamas was supportive of the uprising in Syria. But since then, a little bit before October 7th, Hamas and Hezbollah had a détente and became allies again. And so right after October 7th, when the rubber hit the road with the war between Israel and Hamas, Hezbollah immediately starts launching rockets, which sends 60,000, roughly, Israelis from the north scattering, displaced back towards Tel Aviv and elsewhere. That is what is driving the political pressure to now go to war with Lebanon, to try to get those 60,000 people back into their homes who've been displaced for that long. And imagine how much pressure that puts on Israel at 60,000 people. Gaza's 2 million people been displaced for 11 months. And so this, in the same way that the Houthis were facing domestic problems and regional problems because of the civil war there, were able to politically overcome those by challenging Israel. Hezbollah, too, is able to overcome its problems that it had in the region by challenging Israel. It's the oldest story in politics. You got problems at home, you find an adversary somewhere else that people hate more, and everybody rallies around the flag. And so it is in the kind of domestic political interests of all of these actors, whether it's the Houthis, Iraqi Shia militias, Hezbollah, to challenge Israel, and because it makes them look like they're standing up for Gaza, which they are. Right. And what Nasrallah keeps saying, the head of Hezbollah, and the Houthis as well, we are not ending this until the war on Gaza ends.
This was going to be my big question for you with all of that context, because the massive open question is, does this escalate? And that's been the fear since violence broke out on October 7th. I mean, where do you see this going where do you see this going in terms of how it can pour even more sort of gas on this fire? If it's good, if it's in the interest of Hezbollah politically to escalate, does Hezbollah escalate? Are there external pressures? A lot of people would say there. So the argument from like the neoconservative camp would be that Iran is orchestrating all of this. They're puppets, or they're like sort of chess pieces in Iran's game versus the West. So it's not necessarily what Hezbollah wants. It'll be what Iran wants. How do you respond to that?
So I don't think it's one point on that. Iran has major influence over Hezbollah. U.S. has major influence over Israel. Both Israel and Hezbollah have their own agency as well, though, from their kind of superpower.
And their own political motivations.
Because Iran's not a superpower, but a bigger power. Sure. And their own political motivations. But I don't think it's in their interest to escalate. I think it's in their interest to look like they're putting up a strong resistance and continuing to put pressure on Israel to end its genocidal campaign in Gaza. Like, I think that's what works for them. They think, and Iran and Hezbollah have been very clear in kind of the signals that they've been sending and that their proxies have been putting out, that they believe Netanyahu wants a regional war to bail himself out. That Netanyahu's kind of stuck in a cul-de-sac of his own making, and wants to just flip the table and see what happens on the other side. Like, it's not even necessarily a strategy, but it's a strategy to blow things up and live to see another day. And both Iran and Hezbollah think, if that is the thing that our adversary wants, let's do everything we can to avoid giving him that. Which is exactly what I and some other people were saying right after October 7th, that it was like, Hamas launched this attack very clearly as a provocation
Yep.
to bring about an over